The Silmarillion, Chapter 18, of the Ruin of Beleriand and the Fall of Fingolfin. The Dagor Bragollach, the Battle of Sudden Flame. 455 years after the coming of Fingolfin's people began the fourth of the great battles, the Dagor Bragollach, the Battle of Sudden Flame. During this battle came Glaurung the Golden, father of dragons, in his full might. Balrogs and the armies of Orcs came behind him. Most of the Grey-elves fled and forsook the northern war in this time. The sons of Finarfin were most hurt because they lived directly south of Ard-galen. Angrod and Aegnor were slain. Finrod was cut off from his people and would have been slain, but a man named Barahir rescued him, and he was able to return to Nargothrond. He swore an oath to Barahir and his people, and gave him his ring. Fingolfin and Fingon were driven back to the fortress of Ered Wethrin. Hador the Golden-haired died defending Fingolfin, and his son Gundor died with him. Hithlum remained unconquered for the time being, but Fingolfin was cut off from his kinsmen. Celegorm and Curufin were overcome and fled to Nargothrond. Maedhros and his people fought valiantly, but could not stand against Glaurung, and everyone fled. In this time the Orcs did not come to Osiriand. Fingolfin rode to Angband's gates to challenge Morgoth into battle after this. Fingolfin called him Craven and the Lord of Slaves for all of his servants to hear. So Morgoth felt forced to answer this challenge. Fingolfin fought against Morgoth valiantly, but became weary and was eventually crushed under Morgoth's shield. Morgoth pressed his foot against Fingolfin's neck, but Fingolfin stabbed Morgoth in the foot in one last desperate stroke. Thus Fingolfin died. Morgoth broke the body of Fingolfin and planned to feed it to the wolves, but Thorondor, Lord of Eagles, came, and he scratched Morgoth's face and took the body of Fingolfin, carrying it to Gondolin, where Turgon buried him. Morgoth was permanently wounded in his foot due to Fingolfin, and his face by Thorondir. Now in this time Morgoth had dominion over the north, and he pursued the people of Barahir, until one by one only a few of them remained. These men became so desperate that they sent their women and children away to Brethil for safety. Most of these men were not seen again because they were killed one by one until only 12 remained with Barahir, Beren his son, Baragund, Beleriand, and 9 of their servants. These men were outlaws without hope, hunted like beasts, and wandering in the forests homeless. For 2 years after the Dagor Bragollach, the Noldor fought to defend the western pass, and Minas Tirith withstood against the Orcs. But after the fall of Fingolfin, Sauron, greatest of the servants of Morgoth, took Minas Tirith and made it a watchtower for Morgoth. The fair isle of Tol Sirion became Tol in Galroth, the Isle of Werewolves. In this time the swarthy men came into Beleriand. Some of them had already secretly come under the service of Morgoth, but not all. Maedhros made an alliance with them and was friends with their chieftains, Bor and Ulfang. The sons of Bor were Borlad, Borlock, and Borthand, and they followed Maedhros and Maglor faithfully. The sons of Ulfang were Ulfast, Ulwarth, and Uldor, and they followed Caranthir, but ultimately proved faithless. Hurin and Huor were the sons of Galdor in Dorlomin, and they lived with the Haladin. When they were young, they went into battle, but were cut off from their company and became lost in Dimbar. They would have died, but for Thorondir, who saw them and carried them to Gondolin. Turgon allowed them to live in Gondolin, but they eventually wished to return home. This was usually forbidden, but because they had been carried in by Thorondor, Turgon allowed them to depart in the manner in which they arrived. Maeglin doubted this decision, but the boys swore an oath to never reveal anything about Gondolin. Then the eagles carried them back to Dorlomin. Turgon perceived that the end of the Noldor was coming soon, so he sent some of his people to the Isle of Balar to build ships and sail west in order to ask the pardon and help of the Valar. However, they were all unsuccessful and no help came. Morgoth sent forth more spies to gather information about Nargothrond and Gondolin. After a few years, Morgoth assailed Hithlum, Galdor was killed, Hurin drove the Orcs away. Fingolfin was outnumbered as he fought against the Orcs, but Círdan came with his ships up the Firth of Drengist, and they were victorious. After this, Hurin was the lord of the house of Hador and served Fingon. His wife was named Morwen, daughter of Baragund. In our next video, we'll discuss Chapter 19 of Beren and Luthien. This video is a part of our Silmarillion guide series, which offers a quick and easy to understand introduction to the events, characters, and world of the Silmarillion. This guide is also available as a free ebook, which can be downloaded at teawithtolkien.com/shop. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing or telling a friend about Tea with Tolkien.